Hello everyone, and welcome to Comparative Agility Meetup. Thank you for joining. Today we have Jenni Jepsen with us. Jenni is Transformation Advisor at Denmark-based Go Agile. She helps people transform organizations to create lasting change by focusing on the value to be achieved and understanding where people are and where they want to go. Jenni works closely with them to increase organizational effectiveness, motivation, and results. Jenni consults, writes, and speaks worldwide about leadership themes and how to take advantage of how our brain functions to get optimal thinking in the workplace. Today we'll do our best to solve your challenges using inspiration from the Agile Leadership Mindset toolbox. You'll have the opportunity to present issues you want to solve, sparring with Jenni. Please note that this is a recorded session and it will be published later on our YouTube channel. I will also provide a link in the comments on the meetup event. At the end, we will have a short Q&A session, so feel free to write down your questions during or after her presentation. You can write your questions in the chat, that will be okay. So please also make sure you stay muted throughout the event. Jenni, the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks so much, Emma. And actually, I'm going to ask you not to stay muted throughout the whole thing because we're going to need to share your challenges. At least that's what
right. I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah, and before I sort of jump into this, I would love it if you would just write in the chat where you're sitting right now. So it could be your living room in Gothenburg, Sweden, or something like that. But where are you right now? Just in the chat would be awesome. I love it. Great. Thank you. I'm in my house with my little dog next to me, so in Roskilde, Denmark. So it's so nice to have you all here this afternoon or wherever you're joining from. Maybe it's morning in the US right now. Yeah, so the comparative agility Agile Leadership Mindset assessment. Let me just talk a little bit about the context of this. So the whole idea with Agile Leadership Mindset is that it provides insights on how to involve and engage people, increase motivation, and support people as they act their way to new thinking. And my passion is to help leaders create environments where people thrive. So understanding how our brains work, understanding how we feel motivated, understanding what leaders can do to create that environment. And here I'm talking about leaders at every level. So this is what's so nice about English. There's a difference between managers and leaders. So we're all leaders and we can all lead change. So the three concepts, if you will, of this assessment revolve around involving and engaging people to create ownership. There's a bias for improving rather than proving how great we are. And the last pillar, if you will, is around acting your way to new thinking. And in a minute, I'm going to share my screen and just give a little more background on that. The context, though, of this meetup is your challenges. I know that we posed some questions to you around helping people through change and how can we move that bias to improving. And I've got some other ideas as well, just in case, but I'm really, really hoping that you've brought some challenges that we might be able to solve together using some of the concepts from the Agile Leadership Mindset assessment around involving and engaging, the bias toward improving, and acting our way to new thinking. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And then, as Amra said, if you have questions or anything, feel free you can either interrupt me, that's no problem either, or just write them in the chat and then we'll make sure we've got that. So right now I'm hoping that you see involve and engage, clarity, and ownership. If anyone doesn't see that, just shout now. The beauty of Zoom.
See us
sharing. Great. Cool. All right. So with this here, the idea is that we want to create ownership. So when we involve and engage people by understanding together and planning together and validating together and reflecting together, we create the space where people feel ownership. They get the results. So you can find answers to your challenges together by involving and engaging people in the process. So presenting the goal, and the goal here could also have some constraints around the challenge. For example, brainstorming ideas, discussing and deciding and getting to a result. So it very much fits the facilitation. If you've had facilitation training or have been facilitating, this is very much the context, if you will. We provide clarity. We then push the authority to the people who have the information in this process and create this sense of ownership for the result because we've come to it together. So that's the idea here. We can also increase the feeling of reward in our brains when we have influence in the process. So it makes us feel valued, and it releases dopamine in our brains when we feel valued, that we're being recognized for the contribution we're making. And even if we don't agree with the result 100%, when we've been involved in the process, there's something that happens in our brains that helps us sort of calm down and be okay with the result, even if we don't agree with it 100%. We can accept, yeah, we came to this result together. Yes, okay. And then the next one is this bias for improving. So this continuum is called the toward away continuum. And we're constantly on this continuum looking at how our brains are, if you will. So the attitude toward one side there is moving away from danger. We don't want to make mistakes in this sort of mindset, if you will. On the other end of that continuum is this place of reward, where we're moving toward things that make us feel rewarded. And when we're moving away from danger, our limbic system, where all our old habits are and all our emotions are and all the sort of automatic thinking that happens, that is what's activated. So we don't really have the focused thinking of our prefrontal cortex when we're moving away from danger. We're just focused on surviving and making sure everything is okay. And we hear a lot of I can't and we can't, and there's closed-mindedness here, and there's a lot of proving happening here. And what I mean by proving is that I need to make sure that you understand how great I am. So there's a little something about the introduction that Amra gave about me that is to prove to you that I'm credible, that I have the background, the knowledge, the experience. And of course, that is important. We need to do that in organizations. However, if we're constantly proving how great we are, then we don't have time to focus on getting better or even better at what we do. So this moving toward reward is a focus on getting even better at what we do, where we see change as a challenge. We're in it together. We're open and curious and interested. And this is where our prefrontal cortex is really, really activated. And we're thinking about things, putting the focus on learning, if you will, and we're able to remember new information, and we're more resilient to setbacks in this space. So leaders can create the environment here by creating spaces where we focus on learning, using retrospectives, for example. What went well, what didn't go so well, what do we want to be even better at, and how are we going to get there? The focus on how we react to failures or mistakes in organizations. Are we blaming people and trying to prove that, we're going to make sure it never happens again? Or are we going to learn from it and see what we can do to improve the process? So there's a lot here around the system, if you will, so that we can move the bias toward improving, because what the neuroscience shows is that when we have that improving attitude, that moving toward reward, we have more of the neurotransmitters in our brain that help us to focus on doing things in a new and better way. All right. And then the last one, act your way to new thinking. So this is how we get to a mindset shift, if you will. And we can do this through experiments, deciding to do something different and then doing it, and focusing on the progress that we make over time. What are the benefits that we're getting out of this? And sharing those benefits so that we really feel it, that, hey, this is the way to go. And then having that desire to learn from others. So many organizations are using, for instance, agile methodologies, where there's opportunities to get together by competency, if you will, and learn from each other. How are we doing things? When we work in cross-functional teams, another example, we're learning new skills. So having that desire to learn from others is also part of this mindset shift. All right. Now I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. So those are the pillars, if you will, and there's a lot of things in the toolbox around clarity and competency and control, and what's the environment, the system that we're working in, and how can leaders respond, and how can we react better to change and shift mindsets. So that's the background to this, the tools, if you will, the concepts. And now I want to turn it over to you. So what are your challenges, or what are you thinking about right now? Has anybody come with a specific challenge? And now you know it's being recorded, so you can change the names. It can be your former company or whatever, but some challenges that you've been facing that you might like to tackle together here. I'll show my dog later. I was just looking in the chat. Yes, I can do that. Yeah.
Maybe I can ask or pose the question. So I experience a lot of resiliency from leaders to do change or to open up for agile methodology. So it was with my previous job. It was like, yeah, it's nice that you're doing Scrum, but it's just to not precise enough. I don't get results. So, and you can't tell me on this date it's finished. And I think the same is maybe at my current company. I'm not so sure about this. Maybe it's more like you need to be agile. I don't need to be agile. But so what would you suggest aiding in the transition phase?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Renee. I'm going to open it up to everyone here. Have you faced similar challenges, and what have you done in your organizations, or what have you seen? So I want to give people a chance to jump in here. Anybody want to jump in? Hi, Helena.
Hello. Yes, I'm actually sitting thinking about similar things. Right now I'm having issues with actually product owners that, yeah, we want to work agile, but we also want to make all of the decisions involving the teams, and I don't think so.
No. So what are you doing?
Trying to talk a lot, discuss. We started up a book circle to discuss these things together, but it's very slow going.
Yeah.
I feel that when I'm talking one-on-one with them, it makes making progress, but when we work as a group, it's very much falling back into old patterns.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Anybody else working with this? I see some nodding. Yeah.
What kind of book circle? Or did I misunderstand? So this, I am interested in this.
Well, depending on the situation, this time we actually picked the book Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, because that one sort of talks about the principles behind why it's important to work this way, why it's important to build autonomous teams, etc., etc. I hope we are going to have the first book circle next week. So it's we still haven't started that one, but I hope that that sort of having a book to discuss will help bring us in the right direction.
Yeah, it's such a safe way, I think, of bringing in expert advice, if you will,
Yeah.
that doesn't point fingers at anybody because it's in a book, and you can discuss it together, and what are the pros and cons, and how would this look in our organization, and what makes them say what they say in the book, and is it backed up by research, and what are other companies doing, and all of that. So I think that's a super safe way of bringing things in. And it is frustrating that, especially if you have parts of the organization that are moving quite fast. So I'm experiencing this right now as well. Parts that are moving quite fast in the adoption of agile ways of working and really seeing the benefits. And then other parts of the organization, whether it's various roles or the leadership or the specific areas in the company, it's really frustrating, because of what you need to do to make this work is to start where people are. Because the more that we sort of coerce them or try to convince them that this is the only way to go, or the best way to go, which of course I believe it is, the more we resist. Our brains are like, no. The more you convince me, the more I'm going to push back. So we dig in our heels and we go back to the old ways of working. And really, the only way to do this is to help them trip over the truth. So using book circles, focusing on roadblocks or impediments that are coming up. And then, well, if we just tried this, and sometimes, Renee, in the situation where some parts are agile and some parts are not, I don't talk so much about agile in the parts that are not. Instead, I talk about, okay, yeah, but we need a common understanding. We need to plan together, so we reduce the number of dependencies so that we increase predictability, decrease risk. Use those talking points that especially managers like, I think. We need to validate our results, and let's get together. Our teams are showing us stuff early. Let's give them feedback to guide direction on the next steps. And then, we need to learn and improve. So let's look back at what we've done and how could we do things differently next time, for example. So I don't talk so much about Agile, but still bring in the techniques, if you will, to get over that resistance. Sometimes it's just the language that, Scrum Master and RTE and all the funny terms, that is enough to push people, mindset wise toward danger, or, I want to run away from danger because there are no managers in agile ways of working, or at least not in the frameworks that we see, product manager, maybe. In any case, those are some of the things that I have done. What else have you all done around this one? Feel free to unmute. Yeah, awesome.
All right, great. I'm afraid that I might have some connection issue, so I just make it quick. Because I work in a software company, and we have different departments. The department I am is the developer department. Of course, we adopt Agile, but other department like sales or the financial guys, they don't. So it becomes a problem that when different department, when we communicate, we use different language. It's a little bit difficult to us. After all, we work together. So we are like a person, a single person, but we have different brands and different hands together. That becomes a problem. And another problem is even we adopt Agile, but those stupid names like Scrum Master or the obligation of Scrum Master really bothered us. Before that, everything works fine, but after we adopt to Agile, those developers, they stop doing things that they used to do because now it belongs to the other guys, the so-called Scrum Master or the product owner or blah, 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 blah. Everybody has their own definition of the jobs. So it becomes very a big problem, a big issue in my company. Yeah, that really bothers me.
Yeah. How involved were people in, the roles or responsibilities or understanding, how was that implementation done? Because it sounds like there was a lot of resistance and maybe even punishing after the fact.
Yes, it's very annoying and a disaster. Very annoying and a disaster.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody face that and want to give some suggestions to Dago? What suggestions do you have? What could they do now? So you have all this resistance. Anybody have ideas?
I was thinking about what you said, that everyone has their own definition of the role. Perhaps it would help that if you sit down and make an agreement of what the role actually means, because otherwise I think that people will, if we don't speak the same language, it's very difficult. And then also during the work of defining the roles, you're going to get these really, really good discussions. What do we really want out of the role, etc., etc. And the final product is perhaps less important than actually the discussion getting there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Helena. Okay. Renee, did we answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Good idea.
And Helena, how about you with your product owners?
No, yeah, I think so. I mean, it's really good people. They really want all the best. So I think that this is going to turn out to be great in the end.
Yeah.
Take a little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's the balance, right? The time it takes versus the
recording in progress.
The messiness. I'm getting a little kickback here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Who else has a challenge that they want to bring up? Anybody have another challenge? I'm curious, how much proving versus improving are happening in your organizations? So proving is where, people are being rewarded for how smart they are, how great they are. And improving is the focus on learning. So whether it's trainings or communities of practice or informal like lunch and learns, pairing, that kind of thing. How is it in your organizations? This culture of genius. So Carol Dweck calls it, if you know Carol Dweck, she does a lot of research on growth mindset. And in a fixed mindset, which is on that sort of limbic system activated side of that continuum, there's this culture of genius that's being rewarded in an organization where, maybe the new boss is some hotshot from some other company who comes in and actually he or she is proving how great he is to sort of climb up the ladder, or she. And that encourages that culture of proving rather than improving. How is it in your organizations? Where's the bias? You can put it in the chat too if you don't feel like talking.
I think with my current organization, it's like we try to learn, but we don't want to use the knowledge we learned. But it's I can see I'm Scrum Master, and I see from other teams like, we did the lessons. We had special courses for like scaled Agile or for Scrum Masters and product owners, but then but there are the project managers. Let them do the tasks, and it's not coming from the Scrum Masters, but from the managers, which is I think it's quite frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And are they middle managers, Renee, or who are the managers?
It's from high management to middle management.
Okay. Okay. I'm wondering how secure they might be with their role in this sort of setup based on some of the things that you've been talking about. What's your feeling there? And also, if you don't want to say that, that's okay too.
Also, I think there is a lot of insecurity stemming from, there are new roles and they try to remove our roles. I see it with the team leaders. So we have team leaders and we have scrum masters and we have product owners all at the same time. And this is actually, it's causing quite a confusion and competency overlaps, which are never really good and never resolved. No. And I think they try to hold to their, maybe it's a historic role of team lead, and still keep their competencies instead of looking, can I be a better scrum master? Could I be a product owner?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this is where, Helena, your advice to Dago could also be for Renee too, to sit down together and figure out, okay, we have these roles. What are the responsibilities? Where are the crossovers? Map it out. You can do it online or you could do it in person, depending on sort of where your people are right now, physically, and have a discussion about it. And again, what Helena said is so absolutely right. It is about the discussion, the understanding, much more than sort of the process, if you will, because in the end, we're trying to achieve the same goal in an organization. We want our companies to succeed. We want to be, deliver value for our customers. And we want to be in a place that values what we do. And so if we can sit down together and figure those things out, this is the trick though, right? Getting people together to do that. And what I usually do is focus on the roadblocks. So these are the things that are getting in our way. So this whole discussion about not understanding or having a discussion about who does what when, the best way we can solve that is just let's get together and figure it out. Let's just do it. So it's very much focused on a challenge or an issue or a problem, and then we're going to solve just that problem. And oh, by the way, what we end up with is that role and responsibility description at the end.
Yeah,
and having
totally.
that.
But I think it's not only the problem with the, let's say, team leads, but also with the high management, because they're still putting out positions for also team lead and also scrum masters, and they don't get that there is no need for team leads if there are scrum masters and the other way around. And there is the problem. You cannot go to high management and say, let's sit at the table or let's do it in the chat and solve this out, because
Yeah. Before I give some ideas, others who have faced this, and maybe what have you done? Some experience here.
I think we ran into similar things, that we also have the setup with Scrum Master, PO, and the team manager. Probably the team manager does different things than in your company, Renee. But we actually started a very open process where we had a small group that and we also had different descriptions all over the company. So we tried to see, okay, can we come up with one? So we gathered representatives. So we had both Scrum Masters and POs and PM and team managers, etc. that sat down to make a proposal. And then once we had the proposal, we had open demo sessions that everyone was invited to. And I think the largest one I think we had an online in Miro that we ran 150 people. So we demoed and explained the setup, and then they could give feedback and make proposals for changes. And then we got this ripple effect in the organization where they started talking with other people who then came with lots of ideas. So I think that we had hundreds of people involved in actually creating this. And all of these things surfaced in this discussion, such as, but these are the things we're doing today. And it's not in the role description, but we can't just let it go. But we don't want to do this. We shouldn't do this. And then we had a discussion, okay, around how do we solve this? And this is not the way to do it, but I would say that in the end, we as an organization had matured quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, Renee, about the team lead. What are the managers saying about what the team lead should do versus the Scrum Master, for example?
Actually, they don't say anything. They just say we are looking for a Scrum Master. And there's this job description of Scrum Master who takes care of the team and sees that they can develop themselves. And then there is the team lead who also takes care of the teams and takes care of the projects, because we're still working in projects and not in products, which is another issue. But yeah, only tackle one thing at a time and not like 20, because then you will never get on any progress. So I really don't know why this is there. There is a tension field, I think, and maybe it's just because they say you need to do Agile and please don't bother us because you're doing Agile, we don't have to be Agile.
Yeah.
And if you say, but we could give you some lessons or give you a course on what's Agile.
Oh, no.
That's really nice. Yeah, but we don't have time.
Okay, I see a couple people have hands up, so please just jump in with your ideas or reactions to this.
In my previous experience in different organizations, the team lead has typically been more on the technical side, so they can advise when it comes to any technical decisions. So sometimes there's a nice specialization where it's a little easier to see, but I definitely feel like as things have progressed in my career in these last few years, more and more I'm seeing a lot of overlap between different roles, and the easiest way, because going to management and trying to show that, and we've tried different ways of communicating. I don't think it's hard to come up with a solution in that manner, but having the team go through it where we say, okay, it's very tough at a higher level of analysis to say who's going to decide what, but let's, as decisions come up and we work through them, let's really understand who is what the RACI looks like for each of them, and then let's try to extrapolate patterns from what we're seeing as we make more and more decisions. And I also think that kind of puts people in a less emotional role, because they're not feeling like their position is threatened or that something will pass without them getting a say in it. They see that everybody's going to be at the table negotiating. It's not going to be this streamlined process, but that's what we're working towards.
Great. So jump in. There's more hands up. Please jump in.
I have maybe a similar or different also problem. So I am in the strange position of being PO and team lead. And I feel that's really hard and quite conflicting. And I don't think it goes together. And because I feel like I would love to have someone quite on the technical side. I have a lot of backend developers in my team. I know a bit of HTML and CSS, but I'm not going to comment on their backend code. So I would love to have someone technical as a team lead supporting me and being there. So I'm a little bit like, is it possible to be a product owner and a team lead? I have waved at my company like I need to quit one of them.
I'm involved in a large European agile transformation at the moment, and we do have product owners that are team leads or line managers. We also have scrum masters that are team leads and line managers, and that's the least mature area of the company that's adopted agile, where you have the product owner coming from the business, because it's currently an IT focused agile transformation, where you have the product owner coming from the business and you detach that team lead and scrum master product owner role. That's where you have the greatest maturity and agility. And that's been my experience in other agile transformations as well. You really need to separate those two roles. Then you have the question of, well, who is the line manager for the team? Because in a large organization, there are activities that are outside of the delivery team, outside of the Scrum or the Kanban team.
Yeah, you want to have that somebody who's there to support you in your competency development, if you will. So matrix organizations, agile organizations, where in the community of practice or in the competency area, if you will, that is usually where the sort of HR responsible competency development, people development part is happening, where in the team, it's focused on that product. And it's a slippery slope if a product manager or scrum master also has sort of line manager, competency development, HR responsibilities, because suddenly you're making decisions based on what's good for me or good for you, rather than what's good for our customers. So that is not where we want to be. And oftentimes that's where things start. And this is why I keep bringing up the whole idea of impediments, that if we can make those impediments visible. So I know, for instance, in the company, Helena's company, actually, using impediment boards for the different product teams, to put up things that are getting in our way as a team. And then the managers, if you will, are looking at those boards at least once a week and understanding, okay, what is this here? And is this something that we need to escalate higher up in the organization because it's a more organizational impediment or roadblock? Is this something that we can handle at our sort of middle management level? Or has the team member put something up here where the team member should be figuring this out and we want to push it back because they have the information and we want to push the authority for them to make those decisions? So being clear and involving and engaging in people in the process of, making who makes the decisions when, so the decision trees, what are the conflicts here between, having a product owner and a team lead at the same time, or a product owner and team responsible, whatever, at the same time. So all of those things to point out, hey, this is what's getting in our way. And then making it safe to change. So maybe it's just creating an experiment, saying to the management team, hey, we intend to do this. We're going to run an experiment, use a scientific method or a borrowing of the scientific method to say, this is the challenge that we're trying to solve. This is our hypothesis statement. These are our evaluation criteria. This is how long we're going to run the experiment. And these are the evaluations we're doing along the way until the final evaluation where we can present what we learned. And this is a way too, another way to gather data. So I so love the idea of that, gathering data that, tangible things we can point to, because talking to the rational brain is so important. And we also need to talk to the emotional brain. So Renee, I'm thinking about your managers being insecure, that perhaps, insecure in their role. What am I supposed to do as a leader in an Agile organization? I'm hanging on to my old ways of working because you all are doing Agile and I'm doing the stuff that needs to get done at the executive level or whatever it is. That if we can recognize our managers for the great things they're doing and help them see how that sort of fits in a more agile way of working. It's a slow change. I mean, you need to be patient for that. And it works. It just takes time. So it depends on how much time you have. Oh, there's still another hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say about delegation poker as well. I've always found having a delegation board. When is it the team's responsibility to make a decision about something, and just gamifying that helps. Sometimes actually you meet more resistance because they prefer to see a racy rather than a delegation board. But for me, to a certain extent, they're the same thing but different.
Yeah. This is that power of language. Yeah. Great. what else? What else are you facing that's frustrating you, or what things are going well that maybe you would like to share around mindset and agile leadership in your organizations that the rest of us can learn from?
Hi, this is Karthik here.
Hi, Karthik.
Hi. So in my organization, I have a problem with, I will not say a problem, but a challenge, I would say, yeah. In implementing Agile, the reason is being because everybody knows that, Agile is the way to go, right? And we know we have to embrace Agile and, move faster in the direction, because just for making sure that we deliver value to the clients at the earliest, shortest time possible, right, with quality. So all this is all given, but the reason the challenge that we basically is because how do we bring everybody together, right? How do you build this common agenda or the objective where everybody is aligned towards this? Because if we talk to individuals, the leadership level, they all agree that Agile is, yes, Agile makes wonders and it's all required. We need to change and all those stuff. But bringing everybody together and developing that shared vision is where the real challenge is. Because we need to really articulate what's in it for them, right? If that is not clearly articulated, I think getting a buy-in from everybody and getting to a direction where everybody gets along and then we co-create that vision and achieve that is a biggest challenge, I would say, in many of the organizations, not only in my current, but even my earlier organizations, where because everybody has a different agenda, right, to drive, and the KPIs are different. So that's the challenge.
Okay, and I see a hand up, so please just jump in.
One thing I found useful, where I'm working at the moment, we do boot camps, but I've used the Inception deck, Jonathan Rasmussen's Inception deck that is mentioned in Agile Samurai, the book Agile Samurai.
Okay.
And that's got 9 different areas that you should look at and it's done right at the beginning of either a large piece of work or at the beginning of bringing the team together. And it helps align the people around the vision. Because even if we have a description in front of us, we read it in different ways. So it's actually opening up the discussions. One of the most powerful areas of that is what he's called the not list. So it's not about what's in scope, but it's also let's discuss what's not in scope. And because you get more clarity around discussing what's not in scope than what's in scope. So, and involving the whole team in that, you might involve the leadership or the visionaries right at the beginning, but then actually having a moment where the whole team can input into it. And there's some other nice things out of that called the product box, where imagine you're walking down a supermarket aisle. What would attract you to this product?
Yeah, I love that. And that fits the whole idea of the involve and engage, find techniques that do that and use those tools to get people thinking about the vision in a different way, for example, or the strategic direction or the KPIs or OKRs or whatever you're working with in your organizations. And depending on how big the organization is, maybe it is possible to bring everyone together to do that in a big room, and you have different breakout groups and, using different techniques. Or maybe you need to have representatives of teams who are part of creating that vision and bringing it back to the teams and leading those discussions, again, involving and engaging people, get stuff in their hands, thinking about things in a new way. I love that, the product box, for example, and all the other cool techniques that are out there. Maybe I can ask everybody to write where they go for their techniques to involve and engage people. It sounds like there's some really good ones out there that maybe we could just share in the chat. If you're willing to do that, that would be awesome. So there is a way, and it takes time, right? And it's a lot of manpower. And what I always say is that we're going to create the understanding first. And that use of time is so valuable because it's much shorter than going on for months or years or whatever. As like, oh, do we ever get this done? Do we ever have a strategy? Do we ever get the vision done? And then there's questions and questions along the way because either people don't understand or they don't like it or whatever, they don't like you. So there's that resistance that's happening. So it's so much better to just spend that time, invest that time up front by involving and engaging people and creating that sense of ownership over the vision or the plan or whatever it is. And there are lots of ways to do that. So I love the ideas that you're sharing on the inception cards, for example. Yeah. What else? I think we have time for one more comment before I turn it back over to Amra. Anything else that you're thinking about there? I really appreciate you jumping in with your challenges and contributing. When Amra asked me to do this meetup, I was like, yes, great. And I'm really tired of listening to myself. So I so wanted this to work, and really would appreciate any feedback that you have on what we could do differently next time to make it even better. And I really, really thank you for sharing your challenges and jumping in and solving each other's or bringing ideas to the table. It was really great. Thank you. And Amra, I'll turn it back to you.
It's really great conversation here. In case you want to watch it again, we will post the recording next week, probably. I will share it in the link in the comments. Meanwhile, please join our meetup group for the future events that we're planning. And thank you all for joining again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.